Black Lives Matter 860 posted something that they blocked me from seeing now, so I don't know what the fuck that was, but this is where the debate was going to be about. And so I reposted what they posted. I said, this is where we are at in the fight against racism. We truly are privileged to be at this point. Hashtag BLM, hashtag racism, hashtag Connecticut, hashtag race, hashtag equality. The thing they posted was about some bill of something or other about black people can't get to the beaches and Whitey has all the money and all the beaches and whatever. I mean, if I had the guy on, I was going to have him maybe tell me what they said so I could, really get into it, but whatever. So, which then he responds with, what an outrageously ignorant comment. It's not a privilege to be discriminated against. Contrary to your, if the people with gonorrhea are discriminated against you and won't have sex with you, it's a little bit of a privilege. But contrary to your ignorance of history too, this has been a fight. People have been fighting for decades. All right. Oh, good. I already have that article pulled up. To which I responded, yeah, any retard can write an article. Doesn't make it true. Also, the article is about the 70s. Try living it today, my dude. Yes, a professor at the University of Virginia is any retard. Try reading or therapy. Which, you can find a lot of things written about vaccines by professors. And they're pretty retarded too. So, I don't know what that really proves, but notifications. Then we get on to, I just asked him to come on my live stream. He gave me a little jack off, which means he probably wasn't going to do it, but it seemed like he was interested in it. And so that's where we got into the idea, the conversation of the whole beach thing. So I read this article that he sent. I guess I'll go over it and argue with the article, seeing as he's not going to come on. When a fight to free the beaches rippled beyond the coast. The most well-known scenes from the civil rights movement unfolded on buses and in churches, at schools and polling stations, on city streets, and the National Mall. A new book by historian Andrew W. Cook explores a lesser-known front in the fight for equality, the beach. It's just like the equality camping articles. Just too cringy. In Free the Beaches, the story of Ned Cole and the battle for America's most exclusive shoreline, Cook tells the story of grassroots activists in northern cities who challenged segregationist policies and attitudes that kept kids and families of color from enjoying the public beaches along the Connecticut coast. I'm sure they're going to explain that soon, right? Yep. We sat down with Cook to learn more about the history of keeping America's coastlines open to all. Who was Ned Cole and what did he do? Cole was an activist who tried to draw attention to inequity. Sorry, not inequality. See, that's how they fuck with you every now and again. You got to make sure when they're using equality and equity, because those are two very, very different things. To draw attention to inequity in the urban Northeast, far from the center of the civil rights movement in the Jim Crow South. He challenged middle-class, mostly white people who professed to care about segregation and poverty to actually spend time in poor communities of color. Interesting. Why challenge the middle class? They're the most, they got the least amount of time. They got the most shit to do. Why not challenge the upper class? The people who can really enact more change? Unless you just wanted to be an annoying prick. Oh, shit. I forgot you can't. There you go. I can actually see it a little bit there. All right. See, I gotta forget that. I keep forgetting I'm on editing duties. Though his work in cities like Bridgeport and Hartford, Connecticut in the 1970s, Cole got to know parents whose kids had no access to safe places to play outside close to home. Though summer camps and day trips, he worked to provide access to the Connecticut shoreline for low-income, mostly black and Latino youth. The residents of these shoreline communities, by and large, met the arrival of kids from the city with hostility and went to great lengths to keep them off their beaches that they that they considered their own. Yeah, so something that in the thing that's in the present argument or the conversation about the beaches is that the private beaches, and that's unfair, that for, I guess hopefully they're going to get into it because that's what I really want, to talk about, but whatever. Chunky, oh my God, whatever. I think it shows the various ways segregation is enforced in America. Along the Connecticut shore in the 60s and 70s, you didn't see white-only signs or explicitly racial policies of exclusion as you would have in the Jim Crow South, meaning you didn't see actual racism. But segregation was enacted through a variety of measures. When are they going to start talking about capitalism? Some very subtle and all ostensibly colorblind, the scary word colorblind, that nevertheless created a separate and unequal society. I mean, the poor people from the inner city and the people who own beachfront property were supposed to have inclusive and equal society. I mean, whatever. I don't know how that's going to happen when they can't buy beachfront property, but private beach associations proliferated on the eastern seaboard in the first half of the 20th century. First half of the 20th century. So we're in the 21st century. So this is still in the past. I'm waiting to get to like today things. These were essentially gated communities along the coast that restricted beach access to residents and their guests. In Connecticut alone, by mid-century, there were more than 100, which left fewer and fewer publicly owned beaches. On top of that, a number of coastal towns owned beaches and restricted access to residents only, even though it was often state and federal money that paid to protect these beaches and restore them after storms. So if you weren't fortunate enough to own a cottage by the shoreline or live in one of these wealthy communities, which had near uniformly white population, I mean, then, now, not so much, which had, that's an important word, had. The only way you could get access the coast was a small number of very overcrowded and often dirty public beaches. Yes, the ones I spent most of my life going to. Many cities, I don't need to read those things anymore. Many cities at this point had budget problems, and recreation resources were often first on the chopping block. I would imagine cities, right? So the people who live like around the beaches are not in the same cities as the people who from the inner city who are trying to come there. So, if they want to cut that, why wouldn't they if they're not the ones taking advantage of it? It makes sense to me. Chunks? Oh my God, I'm a psycho cat. Even when pools, parks, and playgrounds were built, oh my God, they built those things, but it was never enough. It's not a private beach, my lad. They were built predominantly in white neighborhoods, which, guess what, buddy? Most of the neighborhoods were white, so it's not a really big surprise that happened. So for African-American kids living on, say, the north end of Hartford, like the worst place in Connecticut, there were very few opportunities to live, to cool off in a safe, supervised place. Nowadays, thank God we have Walmart. As a result, children were hurt or died. As a result of no beach, many children were slaughtered. In Hartford, parents in public housing projects staged protests and demanded that officials fence off a part of the Park River that 8 kids had drowned over a course of several years. See, this is kind of giving me the thought, do we need to give these people access to more water? I don't know. In Harlem, African-American children were, and this is Harlem, by the way, this has nothing to do with Connecticut, but they felt the need to add it into the article. In Harlem, African-American children were hit by cars while playing in the street. This has, nothing to do with what they're talking about. Meanwhile, in neighboring affluent towns, again, if this is talking about Harlem, that means they're talking about New York, which has nothing to do with Connecticut. White children were playing with clean beaches. Oh my God, bad things happened to black people, and good things happened to white people. How can we change this? For Cole and his and the families he worked with, beach access was not some minor issue. It was critically important. I don't see how that's going to solve a lot of your issues. And it sure wasn't the only issue. And it did bring a larger set of problems into focus. How did officials respond to those protests? Some officials reacted to anger and unrest over the tragic events with piecemeal fixes. I almost didn't know what the hell what that word was for a second. Piecemeal fixes. The Johnson administration, this is how far back we're going, everybody. The Johnson administration rushed through funding for a slew of shoddy wading pools in poor neighborhoods. For instance, no, it's never enough. No, it's never enough. For instance, or put sprinklers on fire hydrants. These responses showed how badly officials missed the point of protest around recreation. These were Band-Aids over the gaping wound of segregation. These were Band-Aids over the gaping wound of, I want a nice beach. Like, I'm sorry, also, you're in New England. There's like one nice beach. You're going to think you're going to get access to it? Nah. I mean, they already mentioned we do have public beaches, but they don't complain what, they're not nice, they're not clean. Don't go there and fucking clean it. Ned Cole appreciated that to build a democratic society, we must all have really, really nice beaches surrounded by white people property. No, we have to protect public space and ensure that we're guarding opportunities for me. Wait, okay, I'm going to read this actually. Ned Cole appreciated that to build a democratic society, we have to protect public space and ensure that we're guarding opportunities for meaningful engagement with each other across race and class lines. Oh, yeah, there's nothing really. I mean, that's nice, but... Yeah, there's... Okay, that's a good quote. Cole was very troubled by the fact... I couldn't make a joke out of anything, damn it. Was very troubled by the fact that before his eyes in middle-class Hartford... Is there a middle-class Hartford? You mean like Wethersfield? White Americans were segregating themselves in enclaves and having fewer and fewer interactions with people of color. I mean, honestly, like they act like in-group bias is a specifically white person thing. Like, I'm sorry, but like we see this all over the place. Communities of people choose to be around each other because they feel more comfortable. Like, Mexicans, Chinese, all of them do it. It's not just a white people thing. Oh, look at this. We're almost done with this garbage. And look at this. I didn't even get anything useful yet. This was especially troubling because in a segregated climate, prejudice can flourish and go unchallenged. Yeah, so maybe we shouldn't be doing like segregated graduation classes or, you know, segregating how you can be how your life can be by race. Cole saw public space as an essential counterweight to that, a natural way for people of different backgrounds to experience, to come together and to figure out how to get along, get to know each other. We have things like that. They're called national parks. They're called public land, and they work perfectly fine for these things. Without those interactions in public spaces, our democracy and our society would be in a dangerous place. This article written before Donald Trump got elected, because I wonder if they would still say that. I don't think so. Okay. Digesting all of that stupid information. What do we get out of this? So, there was racism in the past. They probably had like laws that black people couldn't, redlining and shit. Black people, even if they had the money, which very few probably did, they probably couldn't buy land there in let's go back to, let's say the 50s. All right, or whatever, the 60s, I don't know. Before civil rights, But after that, I searched on Google as well, looking for Connecticut laws that dictate by race if you can buy property anywhere, and surprise, surprise, they really don't actually say you can't buy property near the coast because you're black. We don't have racial breakdowns in neighborhoods, I don't think, available, but I'm pretty sure there are black people living around there that the entire argument about what the access that black people have to beaches is kind of breaks down into just a economic argument, because the argument I was going to use is, well, what's an art, like, how is it racist? Before it was racist. Now it's purely just because, well, you don't have enough money, and because there's disparate outcomes. But disparate outcomes, like, your outcome does not tell you why things are happening. You can't just take that data and extrapolate it and say that's exactly why, because that's not telling you everything. That's just a little bit, So just because there's inequity does not mean that there is something happening right now, because maybe it will all even out at the end, even though I don't think that's possible. And how could you, like, where is the thing being dictated specifically by race that's stopping a black person from owning beachfront property and me owning beachfront property, right? And the only thing stopping either of us from doing it is just having the amount of money. So, and if the argument was going to go to a place of capitalism is racist and all this kind of bullshit, I don't know. That was just gonna be nuts. Capitalism is racist. Capitalism is not racist. Capitalism is about exploiting as many people as humanly possible. So that's about, ignoring all that shit. And one last thing I guess I want to bring up is by allowing more and more access, just giving people things blindly was maybe without thinking about the outcomes of it. It's not always, the smartest thing to do. For example, you say inner city people need access to the nice beaches or whatever. First off, I'm going to pretend like we're not caring about race, but okay, whatever, let's care about race. Okay, inner city black people, right? We need to give them access to nice beaches, so, I don't know, they feel better. Is it going to be beneficial for them? And I was looking at drowning facts from the CDC before I sound too racist. But interestingly enough, there's a lot of information that's just pretty obvious, like kids are most likely to drown and all that shit. And during summer is the highest time of drowning. I was interested to learn that males, 80% of people who would drown are usually males. And drowning deaths rates for American Indians and Native American people ages from 29 and younger are 2 times higher than white people. Drowning deaths for black people are 1.5 times higher than white people. In swimming pools, black children ages 10 from 14. We're not talking about swimming pools, but wow, that's 7.6 times higher than white children? Jesus Christ. So, even just uniformly giving them this thing, you might be sending more of these poor black boys to their deaths, to Davy Jones. I feel good about it, though. At least I don't feel like a racist. Now go off and drown, little black boy. I don't know. Just another little shitty argument I was thinking about.